Well, you can see the cars sitting shimmering in the sunshine here in eastern Germany, ready for the start of the German races of the World Touring Car Championship. And Seat have got 3 cars at the front of the grid. Gabriele Tarquini's Petrol Leon, Ivan Muller's Diesel Leon, and Roberto Colciago's Independent Leon, all ahead of Jörg Muller, Alain Menu and Augusto Farfus. Andy Priaulx, the 3rd man in the championship, is in 8th position ahead of Alfa Romeo's James Thompson, who felt that he might have had a car to threaten the front row men, but the interrupted by red flag qualifying session didn't quite pan out for him. Well, everybody now ready to get race 15 of the championship underway, and the front-wheel drive contingent wondering how long it will be before the BMWs start to catch them up and run them down. Hello, everybody. Martin Haven and David Leslie here in Oschersleben. And David, there was originally at the beginning of the weekend a forecast for a little bit of rain this afternoon, but certainly looking at the skies above, that seems highly unlikely, and it is a lot hotter than it's been at any stage. And for the front-wheel drive cars, that really spells a lot of trouble with regard to tyres.
Yeah, lots of the front-wheel drive guys that we were talking to were saying that when they came here and tested a few weeks ago, it was very cold, they got on very well and were very pleased with what happened. But with the heat of qualifying yesterday, they found it quite difficult to be able to get their front tyres to last much more than 5-7 laps. And on the basis it's a 14-lap race, that's only half distance. So they were looking forward to a slightly colder day, but that hasn't materialised. What we have seen is a blue sky with nothing in it whatsoever except for blue sky. No clouds whatsoever. The wind is a little bit of a draft, but not too much at all. You can see the flags just waving there in the background. But the BMWs, while didn't qualify fantastically well compared to these Seats, they certainly were quick this morning in a morning warm-up because all 3 of them were there.
Well, Michel Jourdain had a torrid time in yesterday's qualifying session, going off at speed, and then later in the session taking the front corner of the tyre off, of the car off at turn 8 and 9, the fast back chicane, which was had tyre stacks on each of the apexes. Now, those have been removed after a number of the drivers said, well, come on, guys, we're racing for a world championship here. We really don't need piles of tyres around the track, not to keep us in check, but also not to damage cars unnecessarily as well. And the race director, Eduardo Freitas, has had those removed for the race weekend. Looking there at the penalty weights, for those of you not familiar with the World Touring Car Championship, the more successful you are, the more weight gets added to your car to slow you down. The heavier your car is, the slower it accelerates, the harder it is to get it slowed down, and of course the harder it is to get it round the corner as quick as a lighter car. And so our championship leaders have all been pretty heavily laden. The maximum is 60 kilos. Our 2 newcomers, Timur Sadredinov and Peter Terting, both in Seats. Peter Terting in a factory Seat Sport car, and Sadredinov run by the GR Asia team of Paul Ridgway. They both have 10 kilos added to the base weight of the car because all newcomers to the championship have that. In fact, the entire field had it, obviously, at race 1 of the series. Jordi Genet, currently 14th in the World Championship, and he is one of the 2 drivers. He and Ivan Muller have got the turbo diesel engine in their Seat Leons. And David, we talked about this at Anderstorp, how Seat feel that they have very much reached the ceiling of development with the petrol engine car, and the turbo diesel may well be the way forward, but it does mean that they're having to learn a completely different car. The engine itself, the actual engine unit with the turbocharger, the intercooler and everything else, is about another 32 kilos heavier than the petrol unit, and that's all hanging out over the front wheels of the car. And that means, obviously, that it's got more weight to carry through the front wheels, but the diesel is torquier as well than a petrol engine, which puts more strain on the tyres as well. And as the temperatures soar here, we may well see that the diesel struggles more than any other car to keep its tyres alive.
Certainly, again, talking to the drivers in the pit lane, they were saying they were expecting the diesel car to struggle more than the rest of the front-wheel drive cars because of the extra weight hanging out the front, with the extra weight of the diesel engine being so much heavier. But nevertheless, the car does go extremely well. It's on the front row of the grid. It's got very good power. Talking to another of the drivers, he was saying, he says, it's like a rocket ship. Down the straight, it really goes very well. So, you know, I think it will be strong at the beginning. How much it can last the whole race at the front of the grid, I'm not sure. But we do have Ivan Muller sitting there on the front row, car number 12. with that diesel engine in. I can reckon on he will be very difficult to overtake on this tight, twisty circuit. The BMW's a little bit further back. I was just saying earlier that in morning warm-up this morning, BMWs were first, second and third in morning warm-up. Now then, talking to the various teams, what we've discovered is that yes, the front-wheel drive cars ultimately very, very quick indeed for qualifying on the front of the grid, etc. BMW's not quite so quick, but over a race distance, the first half of the race, front-wheel drive car is going to be very good, very strong. After that, it's going to struggle a little bit compared to the rear-wheel drive cars, so we're going to wait and see what happens there.
Looking here at Pierre-Yves Courtals, the Hexagon Racing team. There's team boss Ivan Muller's sister, Kathy Muller, who runs the Hexagon Racing team, herself a former single-seater racer. Those of you of a certain vintage will probably remember her racing in Formula 3 quite successfully before young whippersnapper Ivan came along. She's running Pierre-Yves Courtals, and the Belgian driver currently leads the Independence Trophy. Now, the Yokohama Independence Trophy is for non-factory supported drivers and teams, and he is currently leading it. And here is one of our two birthday boys this weekend. Felix Porciero celebrates his birthday today, so happy birthday to FP and happy birthday to GP as well, because Graham Prio, Andy's dad, former British hill climb champion, also celebrates his birthday here this weekend. So FP and GP, that's about as close as you can get alphabetically, so congratulations to the two of them. Let's hope they both have good weekends. There's James Thompson's Alfa Romeo, and the N-Technology team running this car, finding that it's going very well here. Very similar setup they've got to that which they used at Valencia. It's not that different a track, David, getting hot now. But that's not necessarily going to be too much of a worry for Thompson, because the Alfa Romeo seems to be particularly good on long, constant radius corners. And if there's one thing that Oschersleben has got, it's several very long, constant radius corners. I think he could be a real key player in this weekend's races. And so too, perhaps, could Andy Prio. He starts in 8th place on the grid, and if anything to go by, he's won race 1 in the last 2 World Touring Car appearances here. He's never come away from Oschersleben without 1 race victory. There's his team boss, Bart Mampai. But he's 8th on the grid, and if he can get some points and start around the first 2 rows of the grid for race 2, he could be in for a very serious point-scoring weekend. And only 3 points off the championship leader, Augusto Farfus, then he could really do with those points.
We spoke to him earlier this morning, and he was saying that he's really looking forward to having a good points haul from this weekend. His real worry, I think quite a few people's worry, is the very first corner. The first race we're about to see will be a rolling start. Past the start and finish, down to the first corner. The first corner, it is downhill into the first corner. It is a very, very tight left-hander, like a hairpin left. Not quite coming back on itself, but almost. And it gets very difficult there. So a lot of people are really worrying about how many cars are going to get through there. The first few, yes, we reckon they're all going to make it. Somewhere in the middle, we reckon there's going to be a bit of body damage.
Well, Prio will be looking ahead of him. The 2 drivers you just saw, Thiago Monteiro in 7th and Augusto Farfus particularly in 8th. Sorry, I said he was the championship leader. He's not, of course, he is in 2nd. His teammate Jörg Muller leads the championship by 2 points from Farfus. But what he's also got to look out for, Prio and all these others, is Tomo, because James Thompson was saying to us this morning, I'm going to have another half dozen espressos, and then he said, I'm going to pass every BMW around the first corner. So Thompson is desperate to try and make progress away from the rolling start. Now, Farfus, towards the end of qualifying, in the final 6 minutes when they got green flagged again, got hit in the back and turned around. And the guilty culprit was just seen there on the onboard shot. There he is, the Seat with a green windscreen stripe. That is Peter Terting. Punted him in the back, and Farfus was then out of action for the rest of the session. He ended up 6th quickest with the time that he previously set. But again, I think he felt that he had a car capable of planting itself on the front row. But he's got a few front-wheel drive cars in front of him, the first of which is Swiss Alain Menu. Now, 5th position for the Chevrolet. Chevrolet and Menu in particular were very quick here when they came testing. Menu, in fact, ended the official World Touring Car test here as the fastest man, but David, the track temperatures were lower then than they even were in morning warm-up this morning, and they're now some 15 degrees plus and climbing higher than they were, so it's a very different racetrack.
Very different indeed, and I think these guys have felt it more than probably anybody else. They came here very much on a high, having had a 1-2-3 finish at the last race meeting, and they really thought they were going to be right at the front of the grid with all three of their cars. And unfortunately they weren't, because, well, Alan Menu was up in 5th, Rob Huff is down in 14th, and Nicola Larini, who's 4th in the championship, was down in 19th. But 19th was only 0.8 of a second away from pole position. So it shows you just how close all of these cars are on the grid. We're talking about various different manufacturers, but it doesn't matter whether you've got front-wheel drive or rear-wheel drive. It is still very close from back to front.
Well, that's an entirely valid point. 20 cars within a second of pole position. And the first 3 cars covered by 14 thousandths of a second. Now, that's about as much time as it takes to make one quick manual gear change. So that is a very, very tiny amount of time that the top 3 Seats had that blanket thrown over them by. Even Jörg Müller, 4th on the grid, 62 thousandths of a second off pole position, which has got to be literally 2 or 3 feet difference over the entire course of a lap. Now, Roberto Colciago, top independent, 3rd fastest in qualifying, really underlining what one-lap speed the Seat Leons found yesterday. The real question is how that translates into race day pace, because it's more than 1 lap, quite clearly. They have got to survive out front. Now, in the press conference with the top 3 after qualifying, Gabriele Tarquini, the poleman, was asked if he was worried about Ivan Müller. Why? Well, obviously because Ivan Muller's a formidable adversary anyway. He's a very canny racer, former French Super Tourism champion, former British touring car champion. But the real question is whether Tarquini was worried about maybe the diesel being able to out-accelerate the petrol car from a rolling start. And there, anybody who's driven any kind of turbocharged car, whether it's a petrol turbo or a diesel turbo, will know that it depends on how much the turbo is spooled up and how much boost you're getting as to how much instant throttle response you'll get. And if Ivan boxes clever, he could fly past Tarquini when they get the green up to the first corner and disappear into an early lead. Whether Tarquini will be happy for that to happen, I don't think. Whether he'll allow it to happen, I'm not sure that's necessarily within his hand. Everybody would be supporting him. Cars rolling away now for the warm-up lap prior to round 15 of the FIA World Touring Car Championship here at the Motorsport Arena at Oschersleben in Germany. And as they get away on the green flag lap, sun beaming down, track temperature hovering up, I would estimate, around the 30-degree mark and climbing. Still not a cloud in the sky. There's a little bit of breeze, but it's the sun heating up the asphalt that will make all the difference as these cars get set for the first of their 2 races here in Germany. And David, with Seat 1, 2 and 3 on the grid, BMW's 4th, 6th and 8th, the top 3 in the championship, and only Alain Menu, the 5th place driver in the series, among them. It certainly looks as if in the long run, although qualifying may not quite have shown it as the BMW circuit that we've known in years gone by, that Oschersleben will produce home winners for the German fans.
I do think that they will be strong towards the end of the race, the BMWs. There was, I mean, that's a Chevrolet...
Yes, it's the top blue bit is hidden by the shadow there, but in the huge Chevrolet grandstand, they're all holding their cards up to make the bow tie. Yeah, there you go. Wave to the camera. Hello, Mum. They've all got their little seat cushions and they've been arranged. Everybody in row 14A to F, could you please hold up the white side, and so on and so forth. So, nice little touch there. A huge number of Chevrolet guests here as well. Chevrolet really pushing the brand very strongly here in the States and in Germany. And in fact, Seat have been doing so over the last few years as well, which is part of the reason why Peter Turting was so warmly received in the factory Seat squad, racing at the front and winning races for them in the World Touring Car Championship in the Toledo. And a very strong marketing program Seat has still got going in Germany. And of course, well, the only reason that BMW are racing is to keep their dealers happy, winning with their showroom product. Augusto Farfus will start this race in 6th position. As we cycle through our onboard cameras, we've got cameras with he and Jörg Müller. And as you can see, looking back from Alain Menu, he's carrying a camera as well, or a couple of cameras in his car. Nicola Larini's Chevrolet as well. That might produce some interesting pictures from 19th on the grid. As you see, Jaime Puig in the Seat garage watching interestedly. Ivan Müller carries a camera from the front row of the grid. He'll start on the outside on the run down to the first corner in 2nd place. And our 6th and final camera car is James Thompson, who starts in 9th place in his Alfa Romeo for this 15th round of the championship. Don't forget, 2 races here in Germany on Sunday. Safety cars pulled off. It'll be a long hold until they get the green. Poleman closest to us is Gabriele Tarquini. Ivan Müller on the outside. And the white and black cars, Seat Sport Italia, Roberto Colciago with Jörg Müller in 4th. Poleman on your right. Müller, Ivan on the left. Away they go. Now let's see whether Ivan Müller had managed to get the turbo really boosted up, or whether Gabriele Tarquini's instant throttle response is up to the task. Tarquini said that Müller wouldn't get by him. Oh, there's a huge collision behind. That's Portiero, that is Tom Coronel, and that is Rob Huff. And the second BMW... was that Zanardi? I think it was the Seat Sport BMW of Zanardi. Seat Sport Italian off is Menu, off is Colciago, and that's Coronel. That's definitely Coronel. That is Peter Terting, that is Luca Rangoni, that is... that's Portiero. There's...
Tom Coronel was in the middle of that, the orange Seat, and we weren't expecting that at the second part of the corners they were coming out of there.
Well, nobody went off in the chicane. They went off
Larini
on the
and Zanardi that went off on the...
Massimo Pedala's out as well. And that is Portiero. Not going to be a happy birthday for him. Tarquini leads from Müller. James Thompson in 3rd place from 9th.
Yellow flag, safety car. Safety car is coming out.
We saw it ready to be scrambled. And
flags are already waving.
Eduardo Freitas has no option from that start line shunt. Never mind the second wreck. He had no option but to scramble the safety car, and they've already slowed right down. That is Peter Terting, he's out. That is Tom Coronel, he's out. So whose was the Seat that had the nose taken off it? Well, Larini is out as well.
Here we see the replay.
Let's have a look. It's all happening before.
They've all spread out. They're supposed to be in 2 lines, and nothing like...
On the grass, on the outside, that's Montero. Pedala on the right, the white top on his car. Now, he's in the second incident. The first incident happens around Jörg Müller, Andy Prio territory. No, it's further back.
And it was a BMW that moved across.
That was Zanardi, and Zanardi collected Larini. That's Zanardi's wheel, or Larini's wheel, or somebody. Right, look for Alex Zanardi. He's in the gap there, and in fact, it was Zanardi, Larini, Pedala, and... oh, Pierre-Yves Cortals. That's who doesn't have anything left on the front of his Seat Leon. And Pedala went off there in the chicane. Here's Zanardi from Larini's viewpoint, trying to close the gap and get onto the racing line. Larini had an overlap with Alex Zanardi, and Zanardi didn't know it or couldn't see it. And he got turned around Nicola Larini's nose. You see quite clearly Cortals punted heavily into the pit wall there. And that was a very heavy impact. Actually, you have to say, that was a nasty-looking impact for Pierre-Yves Cortals. And then there was a second incident further back, and that, you see, is Peter Terting, car number 40. Tom Coronel was hoping for great things for GR Asia. Look at the state of that. That's definitely not coming out for race 2. And I worry about the front of Tom's car as well. That was pretty heavy damage on there. Now, let's have a look. With Menu, I'm thinking, behind Ivan. Menu was 3rd when he got turned around.
He got turned around, and that's what set off that
and then they just could not avoid him as the car got broadside. Somehow he continued. Now, it was one of those, possibly one of the 2 Seats behind him that turned him round, and Montero into Farfus twice there. I think possibly Montero might have turned Alain Menu round as well. Wow, goodness, that is going to take a lot of tape replays in the steward's office to sort that out. What we have sorted out is a lot of missing cars. Gabriele Tarquini leads from Ivan Müller and James Thompson. Then Jörg Müller 4th, Andy Prio 5th, Jordi Genet 6th, Augusto Farfus 7th, Thiago Montero in 8th place, and Colciago 3rd to 9th. Well, there is Peter Terting walking away from his wrecked car. And he had just nowhere to go, so not a welcome return to the World Touring Car Championship for him. That's very unfortunate. Pierre-Yves Courtals, I have to say I'm very glad to see him walking without injury, because a hefty impact with the wall like that, he would have been doing clearly 90, probably over 100 miles an hour when he got turned sideways. And David, the car just stopped in less than its own length. It just absolutely slammed into that wall.
I mean, he was minding his own business on the left-hand side of the circuit, and all of a sudden this car attacked him from the right-hand side, just hit him, pushed him straight into the wall. He just had no reaction time at all. It was just bang, hit, wall, hit, and that was the end of his race completely.
Glancing blows and barrel rolls always look more dramatic. That was Luca Rangoni flying back out of the pits. I think he might have picked up a puncture when he got thumped, and he's come back out of the pits. He's a lap down, but David, there's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 independent cars running in front of him, so he will score points. There's Alex Zanardi, and it looks like it was his mistake with Nicola Larini that triggered the whole thing. He's back in the BMW Italy-Spain team, the Roll Motorsport team run by Roberto Ravaglia and Umberto Grano. He's behind the orange car of Coronel. He makes contact with Larini. Poor Massimo Pedala, but particularly Pierre-Yves Courtals couldn't do anything about it. And Larini's car crabbing badly there, David. I don't think we're going to see much of Nick Larini in this race either.
No.
I mean, he was the man in the middle. He was taken around by Zanardi, but also it was his car that punted off Courtals. So now lap 3 of what was a 14-lap race is now a 16-lap race, because the rules allow us to add at least, or no more than, but up to 2 laps if there is a safety car period. Tom Coronel's legging it back from the car. Now he's going to have to hope that Paul Ridgway and the boys are allowed to get hold of his car, or it's towed back to the pits or something before the end of the race, because otherwise they're in real trouble. Well, you can see there that the boys at Royal Motorsport think it wasn't all about Zanardi. They think he was fired off as Terting jumps over the fence and into the crowded arena there. But certainly from every angle that we've seen, Larini squeezed by, and Menu's in the pits as well. So 2 of the 3 Chevys are definitely out of the race. Is Rob Huff still going his in his 11th?
Safety car's off.
So we're getting ready to restart. Gabriele Tarquini, Yvonne Muller and James Thompson, the top 3, with the BMWs of Muller and Prio lining up behind. Ready to go green again. Rushing towards the line, and Gabriele Tarquini making no mistakes as they get the green flag. He does not allow Yvonne Muller any sniff of a chance to get by, but Muller's got a real run on him. He's going to try and go around the outside-inside move, but that perhaps is just to give himself enough room. But Tarquini's car does not have the acceleration that Muller's does. And look at the torque on the inside. Can Muller pull himself up the inside? Not quite, but it's very interesting immediately that Muller wants to get by Gabriele. He feels he's got a quicker car, certainly in race trim, and he wants to get by and use it as much as he can. Thompson in 3rd. Now, for Thompson, like for the other front-wheel drive cars, the first few laps, he said, we're all going to have to be about preserving the tyres. Sit where you are. Now, he's 3rd. If he can sit there for another 5 laps, then who knows? Can he hold off the BMWs? There might be a chance.
That's where he wanted to be after qualifying. It didn't happen because he didn't get out and didn't get the time in the last 6 minutes after the red flag had come out. That's where he is now in the race. He must be thinking, fantastic, this is where I want to be, this is what I want to do. He wants to just sit behind those 2 Seats. As you said, conserve tyres, look after the car, and hopefully be able to try and make a move later on. And we've seen that happen in earlier races with the International Masters.
Now then, again, Yvonne Muller looking at Gabriele Tarquini, and it's these 2 corners here that really work for BMW. Turns 11 and 12, the Shell S's. Those 2 corners we have seen BMWs pass BMWs and every other car through there year on year. And at the moment, the BMWs really have no need to push hard. Jörg Muller leads the queue in 4th ahead of Andy Prio. And Prio will be quite, I think, urgently trying to get by Muller, Jörg Muller that is, because Prio now in 5th from 8th on the grid. Well, he's now not looking to race 2 pole from 8th place. He's now looking for race 1 victory. Again, Tarquini deep on the inside. Muller wide, cuts around the outside. This is to get the inside line here, and he's got it, and he's got better drive. That is Muller alongside as Huffy rubs out wide, and Tielemans goes by. But where is the lead? Is it with Yvonne Muller or Gabriele Tarquini? Close in, close in, close in. The TDI got the lead on the inside. It looked as though it was going that way, and he just used the torque of that engine, David. He sold exactly what he wanted to sell, the whole package to Tarquini. Tarquini went in shallow and too fast, couldn't hold the exit line, and Ivan Muller saw the gap opening exactly as he thought it would and went straight inside. And here's the view from Thompson.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened, and we've seen that in one of the previous races, what happened, and you just go in too quick and you can't get it back for the second part.
Ivan Muller leads Gabriele Tarquini. James Thompson's Alfa Romeo in third, ahead of Jörg Muller, Andy Prio and Jordi Genet. Now, where was Genet on the grid? 18th place, he's 6th. Now, that is how many cars we lost in the first lap. Well, double carnage. Genet, somehow, he had the Mark Martin magic pass that got him through all the smoke, the debris and the carnage, and he picked up 12 places on the first lap. Don't forget now, of course, although the race is 2 laps longer, David, 2 laps behind the safety car, 3 laps behind the safety car, has allowed the front-wheel drive cars to really bring the tyre temperatures down, really try and manage that wear. And Thompson looking for second from long-time sparring partner, teammate and friend Gabriele Tarquini. They were 2 of the drivers who spoke to Eduardo Freitas yesterday about the tyre stacks of the chicane and said, come on, let's get rid of these things. Come on, give us a chance to race cleanly. And very glad to see that they have gone. So Thompson, we were talking to him earlier, and I was yesterday evening saying, you know, what sort of a track is it? Is it like Valencia with a long constant radius corners? And he said, yeah, we've got the Valencia set up on the car. What happened in Valencia? He won both races. I mean, he might well be a dark horse for a really sensational weekend here.
I think he's going an awful lot better than people were expecting him to be with that Alfa Romeo, and hanging right in there. You can see just Tarquini really on the back of that car. Now, what's happening behind Colgiago? Car 18 is Montero
smoking heavily.
Damage at the back. I think the bodywork's been pushed into the rear tyre, which is where the smoke's coming from. In
fact, Colgiago's got by him for 8th place, and we saw double impact, didn't we, with Augusto Farfus. Montero rubbed into him twice. Thompson is desperate for 2nd place. Tarquini's holding him up, and the longer he sits behind Gabriele, the closer Jörg Muller gets to the back bumper of the Alfa Romeo, and we know how much Jörg Muller likes to follow Alfas during the race. Not at all, and how much he likes to pass them a very great deal, and Jörg's having a look for 3rd. And now, writing's on the wall there, isn't it, already? We're only 6 laps in.
We could see there that the BMW is now starting to really, at that corner, as you said, it's those last corners, the Shell S's and turns 13 and 14, where the BMWs really are very, very strong indeed. But down the straight, the Alfa Romeo certainly got good power, and the BMW couldn't look at it down the straight, so it can't have a go overtaking into the braking into that first tight corner.
Well, who was the absolute slowest man through the speed trap in Sector 1 and in the bottom 5 in Sector 2? Andy Prio in the BMW. It's just not quick through the first 2 sectors of the track, but 11 and 12, 13 and to a degree 14 as well. They get a really good run through the final 4 corners. Now Montero running out wide. That's where Colciago did that's where the damage came from. Colciago made contact with him there on the inside, and that's why the tyre's rubbing, not from the contact that Thiago Montero himself made with Augusto Farfus. Seat still 1st and 2nd, David, though. 7 laps of 16 now completed, and Montero now behind Oliver Tielemans, so he's dropping down the order fast. He's out of the points, and things are looking tough for the Portuguese driver, who was hoping for a good weekend here. He qualified in 7th place, and that should have definitely given him a shot at some decent points and possibly even a race 2 win, but it was not to be.
Now, I think at the moment with Gustav Farfus sitting in 7th place, that would put him on the front row of the grid for the 2nd race, and while he's only scoring 2 points in the first race, it gives him an excellent opportunity for the 2nd race. But here we are now, see the BMWs onto the straight, moving across, taking their normal racing line, just not able to have the power to come anywhere close to the Alfa Romeo. Alfa Romeo, while it's long in the tooth, it's been around for a little while now, is still very quick in a straight line. Aerodynamically, it's a great shape of the car, because you look at the cars in front, they're hatchback cars, and you know that is a problem when it comes to drag, and the little Alfa Romeo, I have to say, has got the best shape of anything out there.
Yeah, absolutely. The Seat Leon really gives away a huge toe as well, and that's a big disappointment. Well, a big disadvantage for these guys is no matter how quick they go, they punch a big hole in the air, and that almost vertical rear end creates a lot of turbulence, which is what allows the cars behind. Turbulent air is less resistant to a car coming through than laminar airflow, so you go quicker in turbulent air behind a car if you don't need aerodynamic downforce than you do in straight air, and so behind the Seat you just tow up behind it a lot quicker than anything else. Thompson's car, conversely, presumably because it's a very low drag car, gives away less of a tow than anything else. So in fact, Jörg Müller and Andy Prio are getting less of a tow off him than he's getting off the two Seats in front.
But Andy, you can see they're really right on the back bumper of Jörg Müller, and while he's in 5th place and will have reasonable points from that, he has to remember that Jörg Müller in front of him is actually leading the championship 3 points ahead, and if he stays where he is, he loses yet another point to Jörg in the championship.
Well, of course, we saw this all the way through the race in Porto, didn't we? Jörg Müller led, Andy Prio right behind him, right behind him, right behind him. We saw it in Valencia, right behind him, right behind him, right behind him. In Valencia, there was no mistake. Thompson's going for Tarquini, 2nd place. Gabriele came out very early to defend. Can Tomo fight back on the inside? He's not close enough. He won't get the inside line. No, Tarquini's been caught once then.
He's not going to be caught again, having lost that one once to his teammate Ivan Müller with the diesel engine Seat. He's not going to let that same thing happen to him again. And
Thompson now on the back foot because Jörg Müller's all over him. He was defending there into the long 170-degree Hasseröder right left-hander. So Thompson attacking and defending in 2 consecutive corners. And there's the problem in being in this long queue of cars. And David, the queue's getting longer and closer. Where are we? Down to Colciago in 8th place, 3.3 seconds. Farfus in 7th, 2.6 seconds off the lead, and 0.3 off Genet. That's the battle at the back there. Farfus is the first BMW, I think, that's going to make up a place, because he's all over Jordi Genet. He's done 9 laps. OK, enough now. We're at mid-race distance. We've done the 9 laps. It's time to get on with the programme. Farfus will pick off Genet, close onto the back of the BMWs in front of him, and he needs to, because Colciago behind is in 8th place and is going quicker than anybody else. That white and black Seat Italia Leon is going quicker than anything else on the track. He set the fastest lap of the race, and he's closing right up behind Farfus. And then if the Brazilian doesn't get a shake on, then Jörg Müller into the back of James Thompson. And Andy Prio now can take advantage, can he? Did Müller compromise his exit speed there onto the straight? Will Prio be able to lunge down the inside? Well, Andy knows he's got to make it clean or not make it at all. He's going, he's not. Müller's going, he's not. It's not quite close enough for the overlap. But again, there's the chance that Prio needs. A mistake by Müller. It didn't happen in Valencia. He followed him all the way, centimetres off his back bumper across the line. It did happen in Porto. Müller cracked, ran wide under braking at turn 5. Prio went through to win. But here, he's got to hope that Müller mistimes an attack on Thompson and then slows himself down, and then Prio can pounce.
It's just, you know, you're having to wait for someone to make a mistake, and these guys, they're here because they're very good at what they do and they don't make that many mistakes. Yes, every now and again there is a mistake made, but believe me, these guys, for their manufacturers, for the guys they're working for, the cars they're driving, they're very, very good indeed, and the odd mistake is few and far between.
10 laps in, and the Seats are still running 1st and 2nd, and it looks like James Thompson is the man who's struggling most at the moment in 3rd place. But look at Farfus, Colciago trying to set the world alight. Of course, he started 3rd, got bundled out in the 1st corner Ferrari, and this is Jörg Müller's view of the back of James Thompson's car as they challenge for 3rd, and Colciago challenges Farfus for 8th. Roberto Colciago apparently hasn't heard about tyre wear worries for Seat Leons, because he's going for at that 7th place of Augusto Farfus.
But remember, he started the 2nd row of the grid. He was qualified 3rd, and the 2 guys that qualified in front of him are 1st and 2nd, so he knows he wants to be there. He's got the headlights on now. He says, look, I'm in a hurry, get out of my way, I want to be further up here.
So Augusto Farfus will be reaching in and just turning around the rear-view mirror so it doesn't bother him as Jörg Müller gets into the back of Thompson's car twice, yes. Well, if he was going too fast into the 1st element, he'll still be going too fast into the 2nd element. Of course, chasing the throttle out there. But Thompson doing a canny job. It's going to be a long 6 laps, though, for Jimmy, or 5.5 now, to try and hold off Muller, because Muller's got the bit between his teeth. With Farfus again. But Janae, notice, with just a tiny bit of breathing space now, as Augusto spent the last lap trying to hold off Colciago. Tielemans in 9th place. Montero, floor flapping underneath in 10th. And there's the only Chevrolet, Rob Huff in 11th, and making no progress at all at the moment, from 1, 2, 3 in the last race to nowhere here. As they rattle over the curbs in turns 8 and 9, Thompson eases out some breathing space, but this is the section of the circuit now that pays for BMW. Let's sit with Jürgen Müller for a while if we can and see what ground he picks up through these S's. The Alfa likes long corners. The BMW doesn't mind turning and changing direction very quickly. And see, Jürgen Müller's already halved the distance from 4 car lengths down to 2. And turn 13 rather, is a very good turn for BMWs. We often see them even Prius tried to pass around the outside of there before now. It didn't work, but he's tried it. Remember when he didn't pass Alex Zanardi in the last lap when Zanardi won here? That was Prius' last shot around the outside at 13. It didn't work. He bounced over the grass. Alex got his sensational win. And unfortunately, that's not going to happen for him here. We saw him in the pits earlier, but still, the BMWs in those final 4 corners are quicker than anything else. But David, we're now on lap 12 of what was originally supposed to be a 14-lap race, is now a 16-lap race, and they are still not able to make progress. Is this tyre wear issue not quite as bad as the front-wheel drive cars had feared?
Well, it was the front-wheel drive car people themselves that were saying that that was their big worry. How would their tyres last compared to the BMWs over the whole race distance period? But you can see here the 2 Seats out front, you know, finishing first and second with the 1 diesel, 1 petrol, really are quite strong. James Thompson, on the other hand, he's the one that's taking all the pressure from the BMW, so he's soaking that pressure up from the BMWs and allowing the Seat guys ahead just to get on with their race, do their own thing. And James really is trying hard, because every now and again he pulls out 3 or 4 car lengths at that part of the circuit, at the first part, and then when it comes to the end part of the circuit here after these Shell S's, you can see there James turning into the first part really with the back of the car stepping out. And by the time they get through these next 2 corners, turns 13 and 14, you see the BMWs straight back onto that back bumper of James Thompson. And
again, it's the same deal with Farfus chasing Janae, that next battle, the yellow Seat and the white BMW. He can't get by him. Now he's closer than he's ever been. Now Farfus is looking like he's making a move. You can't quite see it as the queue of cars is obscured. And again, Thompson thinks about showing the nose to Tarquini just to keep him on his toes. But look how confident Tomo felt about taking the racing line. He was even over the white line at the extremities of the circuit. He knew that Jürgen Müller didn't have anything to show him there. Now, interestingly, they might be catching Fano BMW in a lap or 2. What speed's he doing? No, 137s. No, he should stay out of the way. In fact, he's lapping quicker than the race leader, Ivan Muller. But then he's been in the pits and he's a lap behind. So Menu has also come back out of the pits, and that, David, will be a morning warm-up effort to shake down the car to make sure the repairs they've made work for race 2, because he can't do anything in race 1 now.
That's exactly right. And if he goes out and does a couple of laps, then those guys that fell out on the first lap at the same time as he did, if he does a couple of laps, then he will be ahead of them on the grid. So it saves him like 4 or 5 places on the grid if he can get himself back out and do some laps at least.
Look at the way Jürgen Müller is ramping that number 2 BMW over the curbs at that turn 8 and 9 chicane. He's really hurling it over the... And those curbs are very high curbs. They are not low motorcycle style curbs. Look also how tail happy through 11 and 12 the Seat of Ivan Muller is starting to look. And that's the back end. That's the bit that doesn't do any work. There's Alain Menu. Well, no points, no prizes for fastest lap, unfortunately, in this category. But he's just making sure that the car will survive maximum attack, because, boy, he's going to be starting in 18th or something, and it'll really need it. Ivan Muller leads then from Gabriele Tarquini as Tarquini defends from Thompson again. On to lap 14. 3 to go now. Jörg Muller. Now, it's earlier and earlier in the lap that Muller is re-catching Thompson after he's left behind in this first corner, David. And Tarquini is now the man under pressure from the queue behind.
And we've seen that coming round the last lap through there. Tarquini couldn't quite hold it all the way into the inside. And yet James Thompson was right on the inside, running over the grass on the inside. He really can hold his car into that corner. Once they come out to that first left-right chicane there, the front of that Alfa Romeo really is working through those tighter corners, and you know, it has been good here in the past. Not yet managed to win a race here, but certainly there's the BMW into the back of the Alfa Romeo yet again. He's had a few little taps at the back of that car.
Oh, here comes Priaulx having a little look at Jörg Muller as Muller just had to maybe modulate the throttle a whisper to stop really hitting Thompson and potentially damaging his car. No, Priaulx can't make any inroads. Well, you're right, the Seat drivers in qualifying, after qualifying yesterday, were saying, you know, we feel we've got the car with the best chassis. Guys, look at the red car. He, as David says, he can be inside the apex that you're a metre away from on the outside. That Alfa Romeo. But you're right, even in their pomp, the Alfa Romeos, the red wedge, never beat BMW here. Only one time has a manufacturer beat BMW here, and it was Spain. It was the Seat. Ricard Rydell beat BMW here for Seat to win Seat's first World Touring Car race. Yvan Muller leads from Gabriele Tarquini. 2 to go. James Thompson third and still looking to move up the order. Jörg Muller fourth. Andy Priaulx. Oh, now he's almost giving Jörg Muller the Thompson treatment. Just about touching the back bumper there of the 320 SI in front of him. Jordi Genet. Now he's about a second and a bit behind Priaulx, but still holding off Augusto Farfus. So, David, the top three in the championship in BMWs at a BMW track have not made a single passing attempt in 12 laps, because we've had 3 safety car laps.
That's right, but they've just sat there. It's quite often is the way, because there's 2 races in a weekend. In the first race, they look after the car, they take care of it, and they won't do anything too rash with the car in case it gets badly damaged, like we've seen all the cars on the first lap getting damaged. They want to try and keep away from that because they're going for a championship. They just score points on a regular basis. So in the first race, they will really look after it. Maybe in the second race, a bit more optimistic, a few little dives down the inside to try and get past somebody, a little bit more bumping and boring in the second race. I think we will see that, but certainly in the first race, look after the car, score points. The one thing is most important is to score points. But there, that black and white car, Colgiago, in 8th place. If he finishes there, he will start on the front row. Now it's a standing start. Oh, Priaulx's going to have a look at the inside of Muller.
Had another look. He's had another look.
He knows he's quicker, but getting past is different to being quicker.
It's that last lap pass on Zanardi that he tried last year, 2 years ago now. Now then, last lap then. Here we go. Yvan Muller leads for Seat. Gabriele Tarquini second for Seat. James Thompson third for Alfa Romeo. Can there really not be a BMW even on the podium here? It could well happen. Jörg Muller fourth, Andy Priaulx fifth, Augusto Farfus seventh is where our top 3 in the championship are. 4th and 5th in the championship will not score points. So it's still a good day at the office for BMW, but remember Priaulx's mantra: every single point counts, every point. If you can go from 5th to 4th, take it. If you can go from 8th to 7th, take it. Every point counts. I'm sure tattooed inside Andy Priaulx's eyelids, on one it says "I love Joe," on the inside of the other one it says "every point counts." Well, there's nothing between these drivers. 0.75 of a second between Thompson and Priaulx, 3rd to 5th. And the top 5 are covered by 1.6 seconds, or about 6 car lengths. And here's Augusto Farfus in 7th place. There's his young girlfriend. She's been coming to all the races, and she's really, like everybody else, seems such rejuvenated and exciting Augusto Farfus this year. Gone is the waywardness of the last 2 or 3 seasons. He is really the real deal this season. But like his teammate, Jörg Muller, like his rival world champion, Andy Priaulx, who again looks at Muller, but again makes sure there's no contact, cannot do anything about the front-wheel drive cars. It's going to be victory and second place, and history is made as well. No BMW on the podium, I don't think we've ever had that, but even more significantly, the first ever World Championship race win for a diesel engine car. Ivan Muller wins with the Seat Leon TDI in only its second race weekend. And there is Hugues de Schoenack, the Orica team boss, who's engineering that car for Ivan Muller and overseeing his progress last year and this. And that is a huge vindication for Jaime Puig and Seat Sports, taking that decision to go with the TDI motor. They believed that they couldn't get any more out of the petrol engine, and that TDI was the way to go forward. The second race weekend tells us that they were right. This car is still in its infancy. Ivan Muller hadn't even tested it for more than a single day before he got to race it at Sweden. The wet weather there told us nothing about the car's real potential, but even here in hot conditions at Oschersleben, it's got it, and it's won its first race. What a race for Seat. First, second and third on the grid with petrol, diesel and independent driving cars. They now take a memorable 1-2 here, and that is really putting it to BMW in their backyard. James Thompson in third place for Alfa Romeo, and that's a great result for him. Jürgen Müller, Andy Priaulx fourth and fifth, and Augusto Farfus seventh will console themselves with the fact that although they couldn't pass the Seats and the Alfa, they did take big championship points, and their rivals Alain Menu, Nicola Larini and the rest did not score well. Ivan Muller, sixth in the championship, gets 10 points. That moves him on to 52, but...
that puts him up to fourth overall in the championship, and fifth overall. Right behind that is Gabriele Tarquini.
Colciago won the independence from Timur Sandradino, our 19-year-old newcomer, but there was Rangoni and Daste getting together on the last lap, and Stefano Daste, well, I'm not sure if he'll be credited with a finish there, but full marks. He might have lost Tom Coronel from the race, GR Asia boss Paul Ridgway, and may not be able to get him back out for race 2. But this new Russian kid that has turned up with the team this year, this weekend, 19-year-old Timur Sandradinov, he has taken second in the independence category on his first time out, ahead of the BMW of Sergio Hernandez, which is interesting as well. Sergio Hernandez could not get by Seat Leon Chassis 001, the original test mule that Jordi Genet put on thousands of kilometers with, raced for a season and a half, is now with the GR Asia team. It's their green car, and he comes second in the Independence Trophy. But the runaway winner of the Independence Trophy was Roberto Colciago. But Ivan Muller gets out of the car. Jaime Puig already on the phone to the factory back in Spain, with Hugues de Schoenack, the Orica team boss, walking down the pit lane there to come and see their boy. Bon boulot, Ivan Muller, great job. That's a really well-taken victory. He knew where his car was strong compared to early race leader Gabriele Tarquini. He rehearsed the move, and then he sold it hook, line and sinker to Gabriele, eased him out on the inside, and was never headed again. Well, Tarquini perhaps might have worried a little bit about that. He's now second, but that's a good race finish for him as well. Not as good as a second victory, but in fact, that's only his second podium of the season. Well, there's de Schoenack with Muller, two men who've got a lot of very successful history behind. Bravo, says Gabriele Tarquini, as much a gentleman in victory as in defeat. And third place for James Thompson. Well, when we spoke to him last night, he was really disappointed with his day, with the way that the qualifying hadn't quite worked out, with the tyre issues and everything else. But this morning he was full of beans and full of espresso, clearly, as well, as he's made it into third on the grid. But there you go, Ivan Muller. First victory in an FIA World Championship for a diesel engine, and that's a very big milestone for Seat and for the series as well. Well, we're going to try and get down there to have a quick word with him. There is James Thompson, looking like that was pretty tough work holding off Jürgen Müller, as indeed it looked. And he congratulates Gabriele Tarquini. Roberto Colciago there gets to chat with him as well. He was the top independent, of course, in 8th place. But here's our race winner, Ivan Muller.
Ivan Müller, it looked like a gamble when you introduced the TDI to the WTCC, but it paid off.
Yeah, it paid off, but there is still the fuel just behind, you know. But it was a risk to take the diesel. We took the risk, and now we have the payback of this risk. So I'm pleased to do the first diesel victory for the Seat in WTCC.
Thank you.
Well, again, it's Jordi Genet that's done the testing, as he did with the original Leon. He does not get the honour of winning the first race with the original Leon or with the TDI motor. That particular honour has gone to Ivan Muller. Of the many records he's got, yet another one. First driver of a diesel engine car to win a World Championship race. And here's how it was. Gabriele Tarquini forced into the defensive by the speed of his teammate in second place. Couldn't hold his line at the apex on the second part of turn 1. Muller knew that was coming, David. He sold the dummy to Tarquini, forced him extra deep and cut in so sharply behind. He knew exactly where he was going. He'd rehearsed it the previous lap. Tarquini was left just hung out there.
That's right, and that's what you have to do sometimes to get past people. It's not just outbrake somebody into a corner or think about one corner, but to think about it 2 corners ahead sometimes, just to get yourself lined up so you know where you want to be. And he was nowhere near the back of Gabriele Tarquini going into that corner. He was way out on the right-hand side, cut himself in, lined himself up for the exit, and knew that the exit was where he wanted to overtake, not going into the corner like the majority of people would do, but actually on the exit. And having been bitten once, Tarquini decided that he would make sure that door was firmly closed many times after that when James Thompson was trying to do a similar thing.
Yes, Tarquini, shame on Muller for fooling him once. It would have been shame on Gabriele if he'd fallen for the same trick twice. But Ivan Muller did exactly what you have to do. You use the advantage your car presents to you, and you use it to best effect. And as you pointed out, David, he now vaults the Chevrolets and teammate Gabriele Tarquini to go 4th in the championship. Last weekend, 2 weekends ago rather, leaving Sweden, Chevrolet were 4th and 5th. Now they're 6th and 7th with 2 Seats in front of them. So that little battle between those 2 manufacturers behind BMW in the manufacturers standings, again, yo-yos back and forth. Rob Huff, the only Chevrolet driver to even finish the race, and he was in 11th place out of the points. And again, James Thompson scoring very strongly in 3rd place. Now, that will leave him, of course, 6th on the grid for race 2, with the 2 Seats behind him, with an awful lot of BMWs to try and pass. Roberto Colciago will start race 2 on pole from Augusto Farfus. So maybe race 1 doesn't supply a BMW victory here at Oschersleben, but perhaps race 2 might. We'll have to wait and see. So James Thompson, 3rd place here in the first race in Germany, comes out onto the podium. To the warm applause of the N-Technology team. Big cheer for Gabriele Tarquini, one of the most popular men in the paddock. Certainly the Seat boys are loving this result as well. 2nd for Tarquini after claiming pole, and victory for the TDI. Now, the question for me, David Leslie, is have they got enough factory time to produce TDI engines for Tarquini and for Montero and the rest of the guys in the team? Because clearly the TDI now seems to be the way forward, pretty much with immediate effect.
That's right, but whether they can turn around all those cars they've got, and there's quite a lot of C8 cars out there one way or another, and put TDI engines into all of them, I think that's highly unlikely.
Very slight finger trouble there with the anthem. I wonder if we got the wrong F. Maybe that was Finland before the Marseillaise. Certainly Hugo Schoenack and Ivan Muller were looking very confused there until the French anthem rang out. So James Thompson will take the trophy for third place, and that'll be sitting on the lunch table in the N Technology awning in another few minutes. Good job for James Thompson. Now, this car is being run very much on a shoestring budget, and certainly a lot of question marks over whether it'll be raced at all next year, the Alfa Romeo 156, but there's still life in the old dog yet. It's in its 7th season of touring car racing or something like that, and it's really still got the potential to be on the podium. Gabriele Tarquini second, and the first win for a diesel engine, not only in the World Touring Car Championship, but in any FIA World Championship, taken by Ivan Muller. And Jaime Puig takes the winning manufacturer's trophy for SEAT. So a big milestone really here for SEAT. Very, very important. So this has been a good racetrack for them. They took their first ever World Touring Car Championship win here a couple of years ago, and now they've taken their first ever World Touring Car win with their new generation, with their diesel engine cars. So it's Oschersleben has a history of being a BMW track, but it's never been too unkind a place for SEAT. And again, top independent, not a BMW, it's Roberto Colciago. So as they stand by to get busy with the fizzy, we will think about taking our leave from the first race here in Oschersleben. Oh dear, poor girl. Now, you see, in Sweden, nobody would have noticed, but it's warm and sunny here, so everybody's going to get completely soaked. But before race 2, what are the BMW drivers going to do? What are the SEAT and Alfa Romeo drivers going to do? Oh, Ivan Muller, ever the gentleman. That's very, very uncalled for. So, lovely. So Ivan Muller delighted with that. Of course, he'll start 8th in race 1. Ahead of him will be Gabriele Tarquini 7th, James Thompson 6th, Jörg Muller 5th, Andy Prio 4th, Jordi Genet 3rd, Augusto Farfus 2nd, and Roberto Colciago. So no BMWs on the podium here, but we may well have 2 or possibly 3 for race 2. So fresh clothes required for the girls on the well, one of the girls on the podium. Poor girl, at least there's not an awful lot to dry off. But David, a notable milestone for Ivan Muller, but also for SEAT. It sort of marks really the official launch of